This is What You Can Do About Your Health, a podcast about how you can make your body healthy, strong, fit, and inhospitable to disease. I'm Sean McClendon, your host. I'm a certified personal trainer, author, and health and fitness enthusiast. Thank you for joining me. The information on this podcast is based on personal research, experience, and opinion, and is not meant to be a substitute for advice from a doctor or physician. You are advised to consult your doctor or physician before making any changes to your lifestyle. All right, in this episode, I want to talk about why all of my ladies out there should strongly consider doing HIIT training. Really, that's not the proper way to say it because HIIT is the acronym is HIIT, and it stands for high intensity interval training. So if you say HIIT training, you're saying high intensity interval training. So it's technically not right, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So you want to engage in HIIT from time to time, whether you're male or female, but we're specifically talking about the ladies today. So I actually had the opportunity to interview um, a trainer local to my area, a longtime trainer, Robin Castro. And you'll see that interview later on, but I kind of want to set the stage, so to speak, for that, just to kind of talk a little bit about high intensity interval training and what it is. And also, I actually wrote an article about this for Making Magazine, a local publication where I am. And so I'll try to make sure I link to that article if you want something, to read about high intensity interval training. So anyhow, I kind of refer to that to some degree in this episode, um, to kind of tell you a little bit about what high intensity interval training is. Okay, so what is high intensity interval training? Now, it might sound kind of intimidating, and if you may have already guessed, it is training or exercise rather at a higher intensity. So think about this: when it comes to exercise, now we all know we need to be exercising to some degree, whether that's formal exercise or at least you're being very active in your regular lifestyle, like incorporating a lot of natural movement. You really want to do both, but that's a different podcast or a different talk. But anyhow, when it comes to exercise, you have four main variables that we talk about modifying to make that exercise more effective. Like a stronger stimulus for your body to adapt. You have, and the acronym for that is FIT, FITT, frequency, intensity, time, and type. Yeah, frequency, intensity, time, and type. So frequency is how often you're doing something. Intensity is how much effort you're putting into it. Time is how long you like the duration, how long you're doing it, and then type is the type of exercise. And so to clarify a little bit on type, even though we're not talking about that in this episode, type of exercise, like for example, if you're doing a lot of push-ups for your um upper body exercise, but then you kind of change it to start doing dips instead or bench press instead or something like that. So literally, even though you're working the same muscles, the fact that you're working them slightly differently introduces a different stimulus, and it's a way to kind of like induce your body to adapt, to grow, to get stronger in a different way. It's just amazing how the body works. But again, I won't get into that too much because that's not really what I want to talk about today. But anyhow, when it comes to high intensity interval training is a way to specifically modify that I in fit, the intensity of your exercise. So literally, that involves you putting in more effort into your exercise routine, specifically through the use of intervals. Now, intervals are alternating periods of going hard and then resting or like bringing the intensity way down. And let me tell you about how, well, first of all, the reason why you want to engage in high intensity interval training is because it's a very effective way to increase your level of fitness, to burn more calories, and therefore, of course, burn more fat, get in shape really fast with the other benefit of helping to preserve your muscle and even build muscle depending on what kind of exercise you're doing. Okay. So it's a very powerful way to stimulate your body to adapt in a way that will help you to burn more fat and calories, help you to increase your fitness level where you have more stamina more quickly, and and also just to kind of help to sculpt your body in such a way you preserve muscle as well. Now, case in point, there was I do 5Ks from time to time. Now there was a time I used to do them more often. I'm not as much of a fan of long distance exercise these days, but I still do 5Ks here and there. Um, but there was one year where I exclusively trained for a 5K by doing interval training. And what that looked like for me was some variation of, like, I went to like a track, a standard 400-meter track, and I was doing like laps where I would do like a lap, and then I would maybe walk or do a very slow jog for maybe 100 or 200 meters and then go back. And every time I was doing the lap, I was pushing myself. Now, it hurt. And I'm not talking about like painful where I'm like, literally about to shut down because I'm hurting myself. I'm saying it it was exerting. It put a level of exertion on me that was like not something I would normally want to do. But then I would get my rest during the jogging period, and it skyrocketed my fitness. I also did the same thing training for a 5K with jump rope. Like I literally did not I did not jog to prepare for a 5K. I just did rope jumping. And I may have done some steady state. I actually, that was maybe a lot more steady state rope jumping where I would just I work myself up to jumping rope for 20 minutes at a time. And and I had a PR, a personal record for that year of running a 5K, and I didn't run one time to train for that 5K. But my point is, HIIT training gets you fit quickly, more quickly than what we would normally do, which is steady state cardio, where you kind of do something and you set a pace and you go at that same pace for a long period of time. Now, I'm not frowning on that type of training, but I will say I prefer to do higher intensity training more often, given that I'm able to recover because of the fact that it gets you fit more quickly and because of the fact that it preserves muscle. Now, me being like the type of frame that I am, it tends to be a little harder for me to gain muscle than some others. And so I'm trying to hold on to whatever muscle I can and build muscle. Now, high intensity interval training is intense. So you are going to feel uncomfortable. There's no way around that. You actually want to feel uncomfortable. Okay. But also, on the same token, you want to make sure that you are able to take that, especially if you're somebody who hasn't really been doing anything like that for a long time. You don't want to just kind of go right into it. You want to ease into it. You most likely want to go and get checked by a physician, make sure that all your pipes and stuff are good and whatnot, because just because you did it 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and you could just get up and do it, doesn't mean you can do that now, because you got to ease into it. You don't want to hurt yourself. So that said, make sure everything is good before you get into it. And then when you're cleared to do it, ease into it, you know, and um work yourself up. You want to let your body kind of get accustomed to it instead of going from 0 to 1,000 and, like I say, hurting yourself. Okay. So ease into it. I'm assuming that you're going to do that anyway. But also don't shy away from it necessarily, because it will be uncomfortable. It will. But you actually want that. The thing is, if you were doing exercise and it's the same thing you've been doing for a long, long time now, there is a value of that. I mean, in that, because I'm always encouraging people. You're not going to see any results from anything you're doing if you're just jumping all over the place. You do this one day, then you do this another day, then you, so you're changing your routines all the time. You're being inconsistent, so you're not doing it. You know, you might do it 2 days this week, and then you wait a month, and then you go do it a whole week straight, and then you wait 2 months, and that you're not going to get results that way. You literally need to understand that it's not so much about an end destination as it is about being the type of person who has that type of result. So, like, you kind of have to change the way you think about fitness. So, like, for example, if you're running track, you want to win at track meets and stuff like that. That's fine to want to win, but you have to understand the type of person who is going to win is the type of person who is training very consistently and intensely in between track meets. Period. That's the person who's winning. It's not necessarily just the person who wants to win. It's the person who does that kind of stuff. So that said, if you want to be a person who has a certain type of body and whatnot, understand that these type of people do such and such type of things. So that's why people say make sure you get involved with the process and you really kind of lock into that, because that's really what makes a person. It's not just wanting the end goal. It's um dedicating yourself to the process. Okay. Now, so that said, I want to go ahead and get into the interview I did with Robin Castro. I have a lot of respect for her because she's been in the game for a while and knows what she's doing. She doesn't just talk about HIIT training; she actually engages in it herself. So she knows what she's talking about from a variety of angles. And again, specifically for ladies, now this applies. It's not really like a gender thing. It's male, female. But I want to dedicate this episode in particular to ladies and help you to understand, because sometimes, you may feel for one reason or another that's specific to ladies that, maybe you don't, um, this kind of thing isn't for you, because a lot of times intense exercise tends to be associated more with men, because there's such such a bro culture and all this kind of stuff, and we that's kind of stuff that guys tend to like to do, and so sometimes because of the way it presents with guys, then it may be sometimes kind of like a turn, like a turn off for ladies in the sense of, well, I don't really want to be doing all that grunting and stuff they be doing. So you don't have to do, like, sometimes guys would be kind of extra, um so it doesn't have to be like that. But you don't want to miss the benefits of training more intensely, because the ways it makes your body adapt are very powerful. So I'm glad to have the perspective of Robin in this episode. Make sure you listen, make sure you take notes, and yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. All right, well, cool, cool. All right, so yeah, my first question was, like, what are your thoughts about high intensity um interval training? Your thoughts, and I'll say your personal experience as well.
Okay. Well, my thoughts, I think that it is a great um, form of exercise. I do it. I like it. I like it. I definitely think that you need to, if you're new to this, you need to kind of ease into it. But overall, I think it's efficient. A lot of times, and I'm sure you hear this as a trainer, excuse me, people talk about, not having the time. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but, so to go up against that argument, I think is really an efficient way to work out. So that's the biggest thing that I really like about it, is that you can kind of get more bang for your buck, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it's a great, I think it's an asset to whatever you're already doing, or if you're not doing anything, I think it's a good place to start. But of course, you gotta, kind of ease into it if you're new to this.
Hmm. Okay, good, good. So, and kind of going a little bit more into, like, you liking it personally, like, what kind of do you, so I'm assuming you do engage in high intensity
Yes,
interval training.
I
So,
do.
like, specifically, how do you do that?
Well, my personal favorite form of hit is Tabata.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I love Tabata because again, it's quick, it's intense. And I mean, even if you just do, Tabata in its truest form is only 4 minutes, and of
mhm.
course, to, most people that just doesn't sound like anything that's doable. But, you can make it longer, you can make it last longer. But yeah, I like Tabata. I also I go to, I don't have a shortage of places to exercise, but there's one place that I go to in particular. I only go once a week, and that's just kind of my hit because it's intense and it's a little bit of everything. You hit all the muscles, you get some cardio, you get some weights. So I do that once a week in terms of in a more structured where I don't plan it. And
Mm.
I don't know what's coming at me. So I kind of like that. And then, I'll plan my own stuff as well. But so yeah, I definitely do it as part of my workout. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So tell me this. So with the Tabata that you do, like, was it like in the form of like sprints or like rope jumping or like circuits or something like that, really intense circuits of some
Yeah.
kind?
I do Tabata a couple ways. Sometimes I just have, because, in its truest form, it's 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. You do that for 8 cycles. There's your 4 minutes. Sometimes, let's say, for example, I might just do one exercise, the whole 4 minutes. If it's jump rope, squat jumps, burpees, sprints, whatever. Now, if I do sprints, just so that I can stay on track with my pace, I will do those on the treadmill. I'll get a little warm up and then I'll hit whatever speed I'm gonna go and I'll straddle it and then I'll sprint for 20 minutes, straddle it, rest, on and off, on and off. So sometimes I do it like that and just have one exercise. Other times, if I'm gonna make the workout last a little bit longer, I might have let's say I might go back and forth between two exercises. I might do sprints 20 seconds, rest for 10, plank the other 20 seconds and back and forth like that. I do a lot of different ways, but what I like about it is that, I can do if I want to just do just cardio stuff. Or, if I want to do just body weight stuff, if I want to do just resistance. Now, of course, with the resistance, you gotta, you don't want to rush through, 20 seconds of, shoulder presses, and go crazy and, risk injuring yourself. But, if you're lifting heavy, you can, you might not get a lot of reps in, but, you still have the intensity of the heavy weights. And of course, you don't have to stick to 20 seconds. Maybe you'll do 30 seconds and 15 seconds off or something, whatever you want to do. But I like it because I can use it for cardio. I can use it, when I'm doing resistance training. I can use it for if I'm doing something like planks or a squat hold or a chair, a wall sit, some more isometric training. So for me, it's diverse and I can do, I'm not limited really. You can whatever, you can just kind of mix it up. And I like that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So what would you say to any benefits in your opinion of high intensity interval training as it pertains to ladies? Even just kind of thinking about how do I phrase this? Like, does anything come to your mind, I guess, with that, like any sort of unique benefits for women? Or like even just kind of like from a woman's perspective, if they're kind of like looking at, they've been told, you know, about high intensity training for the first time and you're kind of trying to sell them on it, so to speak.
I would go back to and I think this would appeal to anybody, but in terms of women, a lot of times, we feel like we're just juggling so much.
Mm,
We want to, we have work, we have family life, we may have, church commitments, we may have volunteer commitments, we may have, aging parents or, just all that. And a lot of times we just feel so overwhelmed and it's like, and now you want me to exercise? Are you kidding me? So in terms of my selling point, it would go back to being efficient with your time. I mean, this might hit a nerve for some people, but step away from your social media time. Step away from binging that Netflix show. You have time for what's important to you. So, I would sell it in terms of you get more bang for your buck and the whole time piece. I mean, you don't even have to go to a gym. We are not in the lack of information age. I mean, do your due diligence. We can Google anything and everything. You can find something that, while the food's in the oven, you can do a 4 minute quick little workout, so
mm,
that would be my selling point would be the whole time piece to encourage women that, you can fit this in. You can fit
mm,
this in. And then once like any exercise routine, once you start seeing the benefits, then you're definitely going to make time for it.
mm.
So I would just kind of come at it from that standpoint.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So as far as this same person you're selling on high intensity interval training, they're just getting started. Like, do you have a recommendation for how to ease into that?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, make sure you're medically cleared. Check with your doctor, and and so let's just assume that all that's been done and they're good to go. But there's still, just the name, I think, can be a little intimidating. High intensity interval training. Oh my gosh, that can be, really intimidating. So I would encourage, I'm always kind of an err on the side of caution trainer, because I'm looking at the big picture in terms of longevity, you know. So I would encourage them to start really simple, really basic, maybe just, one exercise, one workout a week, just baby steps and build on that. Body weight exercises. Of course, the first thing that always comes to mind for me is squats, which people, freak out about squats too. That's a whole nother conversation. But, I had my silver sneakers squat, people squatting. But anyway, but
Mhm.
if that were one of the exercises, and if I couldn't be there to, teach them correct form, a lot of times my go-to for teaching a squat is just get a chair, a regular chair, not your lounger, but just maybe just sit and stand, something
Mhm.
simple like that. But yeah, I would have them start out with just really basic stuff, little to no impact. I wouldn't say go out here and do sprints. Don't try to do sprints on a treadmill. I probably wouldn't even say jumping rope or jumping jacks or anything jumping. Um,
Mhm.
just in terms of a beginner, maybe it's just high knee raises, and depending on their fitness level, that might be enough.
Mhm.
That might be enough. So I would start them out with just basic, especially if they're under or deconditioned, just basic, simple stuff. And then, build on that as their stamina and endurance increases, and, and they're able to do a little bit more.
So I one question came to my mind that I didn't include that sent to you just based on what you were just saying. Like, do you have, and if not, it's fine, but like, do you have like a maybe an estimate, like when you think that there's a lot of variables, of course, that are involved in this, but when people would think they can kind of start to see like results of any kind from like including something like that in there, like hit into their training routines. And so, like I say, I know that's kind of a hard question to answer because
Well,
it
I
kind of
don't, I don't
depends on.
understand the question. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no. This,
That's
yeah,
really hard.
sorry, yeah, I'm kind of like formulating on the fly. So, like, I guess I'm saying, like, what do you think as far as like when people should expect to see results, from such a thing, from incorporating hit training into their lifestyle? And like I said, I know that's still probably a hard
Yeah.
question to answer because there's so many variables.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, I can only witness to what I see them do in front of me. Now I'm thinking, just personal training one-on-one. Um, but I tell people to give almost anything new a good 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see stuff overnight. Give it a, but that doesn't mean, just doing hit. That, that's all the other variables. You got to be eating right. You got to be hydrated. You got to be sleeping. All that. So don't expect. I mean, they may see some improvement even if they're not doing the other things, but for optimum results, you kind of gotta, hack away at this thing, doing all the stuff, if that makes sense. But I'd probably, just off the top of my head, because I do shy away from, you say that time, and then they don't see the results that they want or that they think they should, and then you got to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a good 6 to 8 weeks. Give it some time. You can't expect miracles with, oh, I did hit twice this week, or I did whatever twice this week. Okay. And
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Even as I asked that, I kind of started to think, well, you don't necessarily, because a lot of times I'm also trying to encourage people, like the most important thing is like you got to be consistent, and so like, I guess you kind of almost have to be careful whenever you give those kind of recommendations because people can kind of like almost kind of set that date in their
Yeah, yeah,
mind,
they
and
go
then
home and circle it on the calendar. Yeah.
right, right. So it's kind of dangerous. So
Yeah,
anyhow, yeah. So
and just to, a lot of times because I get those I'm sure you get them too, but, a lot of times I put it back on them.
mhm,
And I say,
mhm,
"Well, I don't know." I mean, just real
mm,
honest, I don't know, but how long do you think what do you think is reasonable? And when they start factoring in, the things that, they might be doing or not doing, a lot of times they might say, "Well, I don't know about 6 to 8 weeks. How about longer?"
mm.
So a lot of times I will turn it around and just put it on them because, they're with themselves more than I am.
That's good. That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because like you say, they know themselves, but then also it kind of makes them maybe be a bit more like realistic and comprehensive in their thinking. So
Exactly.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I
good.
think as
Good. That's
trainers, sometimes we feel like we have to have the answers. And,
right.
I tell my people, is it okay if I don't know to say I don't know? Or do you want me to just tap dance and make up something? Because I can do that too. But yeah,
hmm Yeah. Right. Exactly.
especially as it relates to somebody else's behavior. I
Right.
can tell you about my own behavior, but I don't know how long it's gonna take you because
hmm
I don't know what you do when our time is up.
That's right. Right. Exactly. You don't know if they're gonna stick with it or if they're gonna kind of do something on the in the shadows or whatever.
I
So
like that in
you
the shadows.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but you can kind of speak based on like what you know for your own stuff, your own body and whatnot. So
Or people that have checked all the boxes.
mm,
This is what I've seen others that have done this, this, this. And when you start naming all the thises, a lot of times that they're like, okay, all right, I hear you.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm Okay. Okay, well, cool, cool. Well, to be honest, I think that's like plenty for me to kind of put
Great.
some stuff together. So
Awesome.
I definitely appreciate you taking the time and everything. All right, so that was my interview with Robin Castro, fitness trainer. I appreciate her time, for taking the time and offering up her perspective from her experience with her many clients, and her fitness classes and her own personal experience. So I hope that you borrow something from that and that you begin to consider incorporating HIIT into your exercise routines. Just make sure that you get checked out, especially in particular if you're a person who has not trained intensely or hasn't trained at all in a while. You want to be careful out there and kind of take care of yourself. So anyhow, if you found this podcast helpful, I invite you to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. Make sure that you leave a comment. If you have a question or something else you want to ask, and yeah, so yeah, and I also mentioned this too. So my featured book for this episode is my book called 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health. It is a fat loss workbook that I created to help you to walk through diet changes. So I'm not a registered dietitian or a nutritionist, so I don't do meal plans. But however, in my book, I show you how to tailor how you're eating so that however your diet is now, you can tailor it so there's actually a healthier way of eating. So make sure you look in the description for that resource. Okay. As I always say, y'all remember that your doctor is not responsible for your health. You are. God bless you.